world is changing fast. New technologies are impacting how we think about products, services, and the way we live our lives. Nowhere is this trend more present than in financial services, where new business models and customer expectations are changing our conceptions about banking, finance, and the very nature of money. Welcome to Rebank, a visionary podcast about banking, fintech, and the future. The future of banking is here. Hello and welcome to Rebank. I'm your host, Will Beeson. Today we're joined by Victor Trokoudes. Victor is the founder and CEO of Plum, a personal financial assistant that sits atop your existing bank accounts and automates financial success. Plum is a leader in the personal finance management, or PFM space, and Victor has interesting views on what the future of the segment will look like. For all of our past episodes and to sign up to our newsletter, please visit bankingthefuture.com. Thank you very much for joining us today. Please welcome Victor Trokoudes. Victor Trokoudes, welcome to Rebank.
Hey, Will. Hi.
It's great to connect with you. We've known each other for a while, and you've been working on Plum, which I think is one of the leaders among a handful of, what were once called simplistically PFMs, and which I think have evolved from that. And I was interested in picking it up with you now because of, I think, where Plum has gotten to, where we're starting to see this space get to kind of pick your brain about your early experiences, challenges, and where you see the segment going from here. Maybe real quick, just to kick us off, tell us about Plum.
Yeah, cool. Well, look, Plum's an AI assistant for your money, which means that you connect your bank account and three things happen. First, based on what we see transaction-wise, we start saving money. So actually moving money out of your bank account into a Plum savings account. Then we have an investment proposition, so you can start investing that money continuously, right? So we let people invest either in like risk-based funds or like theme-based funds like tech, clean energy, etc. And then the final piece of the equation is how can we reduce your bills, right? Various large expenses. So we have something that we're in the process of like fully launching, which is called Lost Money, right? So Lost Money will detect your utility bill, your broadband, your credit card, your loan, and try to help you, reduce those quite significantly. So like overall, we're just building any product that we think can make people better off, right? In a substantial financial way. And what we think we can achieve is that in year one, someone can be immediately 10% better off financially. And then over their lifetime, if they're investing, that ends up being 20% better off. So hopefully quite substantial, efficiencies in a way to be gained in how much money people have available to do the things that they want.
Yeah. Well, I love it. It's effectively smart software, AI, if we want to be poetic, helping you make the good financial decisions that you wish you could make on your own, but just don't really manage to.
Exactly. And sometimes these financial, I used to be a trader, right? And then I left that and I knew I should be investing and doing something with my money. My dad was on my back, but I just wasn't doing it, right? And I just wanted to have something that I would press a button and I know that my life would be in some level of automation, doing the right stuff that I could reverse if I, chose to, but at least I was I had the inertia doing the right things.
Yeah. So this is a real value add. There's probably kind of a behavioral finance type conversation in here somewhere, which maybe we'll get into later. But I think this concept has been, kind of kicked around for a handful of years now. Maybe the infrastructure, the connectivity wasn't always there. It sounds like you're starting to deliver real, meaningful, kind of comprehensive functionality. What are the underlying components that exist now that maybe didn't exist 5 years ago that allow you to do this?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's a combo of underlying components, and I think it's also education of people to use new financial products. So I'm trying to think as to what we're building on that didn't exist before. We're building on something that pulls in transactions. The reality is that Yodlee's existed for 20 years, right? We now use another company, but scraping has existed for more than 20 years. We use direct debits to move the money in. That's existed for forever. And then we also use, I guess, a platform that holds the money and then a platform that invests the money. So all of these things have existed, right? I guess it's become a lot easier to integrate with these, right? And be able to deliver the service. But I also think there's been like a huge, education of people. Like I started my fintech career, let's say at TransferWise, where we were, attacking FX fees, building infrastructure that would allow us to lower the fees a lot, right? But, we were also educating the people to use an alternative to their bank, to move money, an alternative to a broker they'd call up. So it's almost been like also a shift, which is, it doesn't sound that exciting, but there has been a shift like this, we started building TransferWise 2011, right? So, we're like 9 years in. It's been the shift of people using more platforms, which have allowed, I think, people to build quite substantial financial relationships with people, just with an app, just with an interface. So, yeah, so I think it's a combo of the two. And if I would have to say, like, I think the infrastructure's made it easier, but it wasn't impossible back in the day.
Yeah. Is open banking relevant in this at all? Or is it just kind of a natural iteration of the Yodlee era screen scraping that already existed?
I think it's, there's almost like two schools of thoughts. In some ways, you could argue that open banking is worse, because every 3 months you need to get people to re-authenticate, right? Currently, so there's been blockers that have been put up to kind of maintain that relationship with a customer, right? But I think long run, it's a positive because I think it just puts a framework around it, right? It puts a framework. The banks have to play ball. You don't have to deal with like kind of unstable interfaces, banks changing their UI, and then you can't get the data. So at least it puts a stability. And I think it's just about the regulation catching up and making sure that they're not like putting the user, not putting things that make usability difficult. But overall, I think it's positive. There's also the payment element of open banking, right? Which, or PSD2, which I think is quite interesting. We've started using the ability to push money out of people's accounts. It's instant, right? Instant, non-reversible, relatively easy, will also improve. But I think that's also a big component of making money move seamlessly between accounts.
Yeah. So in practice, the payment initiation piece, I think in the like at least initial drafts of regulation was around single like one-time payments. How does that translate into user experience? Does the user have to like initiate every single payment, or are there ways to kind of automate some of that?
Yeah. So unfortunately, not yet to automate. So we're using it for single transactions that people want to invest quite quickly, a larger amount, right? They'll use it for that. You can have a recurring, same amount, same day payment, right? But I don't know how long it's going to take to like replicate what you can do with the direct debit, which is whenever you want, you can push money out of someone's account for whatever amount, right? But I think it'll come. I think it'll come slowly, right? Which will be able to mean that we can instantly move money, given what we see in people's transactions into another account. So it's small steps, but they're encouraging.
Yeah. Versus the direct debit, which is like a backs payment, so it takes a couple days to clear. As opposed to being instantaneous.
Yeah, exactly. Backs takes like, let's call it 3 days.
Yeah. So the equivalent of an ACH payment in the US rather than a faster payment, than a real-time payment.
Yeah.
Gotcha. You guys have, when I last checked, 4.7 stars in the Apple App Store with over 10,000 reviews. What do people like so much about Plum?
I think it's interesting because before we had the app, right, we had Facebook Messenger, right? And some people commented, look, this is a company that people is doing something for people's finances, right? And people still love it because they're still rating us at that level. And what they loved, because clearly we didn't invent the interface there, right? What they loved was actually the results that they got, right? So the fact that, so the comments that people love are like, geez, I just connected my bank account. I'm 2 months in, I've saved 300 pounds, right? I've invested for the first time in my life. Plum's discovered like that I've been overpaying 200 pounds on my utility bill, right? So I think a lot of it is the functionality, right, of what it delivers, right, and how effortless it is for the person to do it, and it means that he has or she has something in their hands that is a value that they can use to go on a holiday, they put down as a deposit. So I think a lot of it is the results. But to be honest, I think the app is also quite slick. Like Kish, our designer, he was the first designer at TransferWise. He's designed the app, and I think it's just very simple. You log in. You see your current account, you see your Plum savings, you see your Plum investments. It's kind of like your wealth in a small, in a very concise way. And then you can investigate all of your bills and try to reduce them, right? So trying to put everything in a quite contained way for you to manage your money.
Yeah. So what's your grand vision for Plum? What's it going to look like in 10 years?
I think in 10 years time, like we want everyone that starts getting a salary to be thinking about how am I going to manage my money for the long run, right? And then Plum is the thing that does that for you, right? So it's just something that sits on top of your bank account that effectively manages and grows your money and reduces your costs. So, but and this means that we got to build a lot more services. We need to, like, if people want to borrow at some point, we'll probably step in and give them money. We might even step in and help people to spend the money because we'll know what they are normally spending on, and we'll build something that allows them to spend more effectively at a lower cost at, let's say, the merchants they like. So I think it's just generally how can we make people's money more efficient and that they're never missing anything.
Yeah. And is the long-term vision that people have low direct interaction with Plum, i.e. it's just kind of some automation running on top of the banks that they're already using, or that Plum is like an interface via which they're on a daily basis managing their money?
Look, when I started building, I thought it would be a background thing, but it ends up being quite a daily thing, right? Because once you have all of your money in one place, you will log in to Plum, see your bank balance, see what big bills are coming up next, right? So I almost break it down like, people that interact daily are probably looking at like recent transactions, their daily balance, and also like big bills that are coming out. And then they're also maybe looking at their investments on a daily basis, right? So it ends up being quite a powerful interface, I think, where you have all of your money and you can take the necessary actions and insights. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
You mentioned that you launched with a Facebook Messenger interface. I mean, basically it was like a bot, / service running via Facebook Messenger. I remember probably a few years ago now, pinging the bot or whatever, and then effectively being asked to kind of like start to do banking inside Facebook. And even then, I was like, all right, this is not the place for me to deal with sensitive personal financial information. Mm-hmm. I'm sure that's only gotten worse as Facebook has developed maybe an increasingly less savory reputation. What motivated, I guess, firstly the decision to launch on Facebook Messenger only, and then at a later date to kind of scrap Facebook Messenger and build your own app?
Yeah, I think we wanted to build something that allowed people to have a conversation with someone about their money, right? Because we felt that was what was missing, right? It wasn't that like there's another interface to see your money, but it was an interface that you can interact, learn, and feel that you have someone assisting you with your money, right? So that's why a chatbot felt relevant, right? Because you could have that conversation potentially. A lot of people still like the Messenger bot. The other benefit is that it gives you useful information on your bank account in an interface that, you are in Messenger on. A lot of people are still using Messenger on a regular basis, right? So it does have that immediacy, I think, and not another app, not another place I need to open, do Face ID and go into to get some information. And also has a push, I think, that is way more powerful than a push in an app, right? But as we started building, I think from a bit of a strategic perspective as well, as you are reliant on another company, right? And it's fate in a way. But also we started developing a lot more functionality that needed, a more substantial UI, right? Like once people are investing, tens of thousands of pounds with us, they're they have tens of thousands of savings with us, etc. It felt you needed a more your own interface to deliver.
Yeah. I mean, I guess on the reading between the lines there, part of the motivation early on may have been it's really hard and expensive to get people to download a new fintech app. So if we can, roll this out via a channel that they're already using, maybe that's a more effective route to market. Was that part of the thinking, and did that play out?
It actually, it did play out, but it actually, it wasn't actually let's build this as an MVP. I think it was back in the day when there's an app in the US that launched where you could text it, I have a birthday party coming, help me book something for my birthday. And they had this TechCrunch article that said oh, I booked you a tiger to come, right? And there was something about the assistance of being able to ask someone something, right, about your money or do something that I really liked. I personally liked it. So I felt it would be like a good interface. It did definitely end up being a much more effective way to launch a product, right? In retrospect. At the same time, I don't know if we would be at a bigger company now, a smaller company in terms of users, depending. I do think there was a novelty factor at the time that helped us. But no, it was generally because we believed it was an interesting interface to help people have a conversation about their money.
Yeah. So if you think about where Plum is now and this vision that you've laid out for 10 years from now, what are the biggest obstacles in terms of getting there? Is it, dependencies on other services? Is it, infrastructure connectivity that isn't there? I don't know. Do banks push back because they don't want you, accessing customer data? What are the challenges?
Look, I think it's a combination of finding the way to expand product and geography, right, quite quickly in a regulated domain where you're trying to do a lot of things. I think but which is just like, I think to a certain degree, it's like sheer effort. Because there is always the right partner, there is always the right way for you to build it, right? But you need to like navigate regulation, the partnerships. Do you build it yourself, etc. So we want to expand across Europe. Expanding an investment proposition across Europe has its challenges. And you need to find the right partners. So I think it's a combination. There's nothing that's not doable, right? But like when you have the additional layer of regulation, it makes it more like challenging to know what the right path is. But like we've kind of done it before, and like I think it's also like one of the advantages, right? If you feel you understand that combo, right, of regulation and product, it can be quite powerful to move fast.
What's the revenue model and how's it working?
Yeah. So we have 3 sources of revenue, 2 of which are live. But basically you connect your bank account, we start saving money for you. Once that money will sit in a bank account and pay interest, we'll take a small like sliver off of that, right? Then there's a subscription proposition. If you want to become an investor, it's £1 a month, right? And we're also launching a further subscription called Pro, which is £2 a month. And also has additional saving rules, gives you a bit more detail on your spend and how you're doing against peers. So we're more saving rules, etc. So that's a subscription model, which is focused on the investment piece, right? And other features. And then finally, when we detect bills that you can save on and we direct you to a lower cost partner, we'll get a fee back from that partner, which is like an established market in the UK. So it's those 3 sources of revenue, which kind of like, it's kind of nice because people come in, we bring them value immediately by switching their bills. And that's like, that revenue is quite substantial. And then we have this ongoing relationship with someone saving and investing their money.
What's the geographic scope of Plum right now? Where's it live? Where can people use it?
So right now, only in the UK. And then we're looking to launch Europe this year. US isn't completely off the cards, but I think there's a lot of work to be done in Europe. And I think as like, open banking type of regulation comes into play in like different countries like Latin America, Australia, etc. All of those are markets that we want to like slowly go into.
That's interesting. Is your thought more around launching under the Plum brand, building the new markets, similar to the way that TransferWise kind of did, right? Like one of TransferWise's strengths, especially relatively early on, was the speed at which it opened new markets and scaled throughout them.
That was my job, yeah.
Well, all right. They have you to thank. We connected with Christo a few months ago.
Yeah.
Amazing story.
Yeah.
So do you expect Plum to adopt a similar model, build, Plum Brazil, Plum US, Plum Australia, or are there white label opportunities with existing partners?
I think, yeah, the reality is I think Plum is a much more, in order for Plum to deliver a good product, we need to do a lot of things for the consumer, which means it takes longer to build like a full proposition in each market. So the way I approach it is that I think what TransferWise did was very good because it focused you to build a very good product for the consumer. So we're not like trying to white label anything, but there are markets that it feels natural that will take longer to get to, right? If we want to do it fully. So like we're open and we're always like interested in discussions where we can open a huge market with someone that, but we always want to try to do it under the Plum brand, right? So Plum powered by someone. But yeah, bring the functionality, but there's a lot of local connectivity that we need there, like from banking relationships, investment relationships, broker relationships on all the products we're switching. So it can help to have someone locally.
On the investment side, so it sounds like you kind of automate the savings piece, and then you let people, if they opt for the investments option at a pound a month, you let them invest that money into investment portfolios. How does that experience work, and what partnerships are required to deliver that?
Yeah, so we basically have a broker that allows us to buy any ETF, mutual fund kind of on the market, right? We curate a list of the ones that are like, low cost index funds, right? That either describe a certain risk parameter or a certain area. And then users effectively open an investment account with us, or an ISA, which is a tax efficient structure in the UK. And then they can invest one-off, but the majority of people, what they're doing is they're using what we call the splitter in Plum. So every week Plum will save money for you. You've chosen to invest in the tech fund, right? And you'll say, I want 50% of my money going into the tech fund and 50% going into savings, right? Or 50% in savings, 25 in the tech fund, 25 in the growth fund, etc. So it's focused on a continuous investing activity for the user. Yeah. And then that's how we deliver it.
Interesting. This may be a bit aspirational, or I may be missing one of the connectivity pieces here, but could you help people actually apply those same rules like to their underlying account directly, saying, I don't know, every time I get paid, move 5% of my salary into the growth fund, for instance?
Yeah. So we're launching a payday boost, which is exactly that. So basically, right now with Plum, we have 4 rules, right? And we're adding payday, which is the 5th rule. So you can do the automated savings that Plum does. You can do roundups. You can do rainy day. You save whenever it rains. You can do a 52-week challenge, and now payday, right? So, and payday is interesting for us because we actually see the income of the person, right? Because they're connecting a primary account. And that's where it's kind of interesting. Rather than saying save 100 pounds or 200 pounds, you're saying save 5% of income, which might be larger than either of those two numbers, right? And yeah, and you can direct that money to wherever you want.
That starts to feel really powerful. That's like one of the kind of most basic, components of long-term financial well-being. But it's also very difficult. I mean, it's effectively impossible to automate with traditional tools. So you have to use a new fintech in order to do that.
Yeah. No, exactly. And I think it's interesting to see what the take. I think it's something that's very rational, right? But when you have to go do it in your bank and set up a standing order, it just feels, painful, I think, right? Whereas here, hopefully it's this like interface that, puts it in front of you, it's good for you. That's why I always believe with savings, it's like people know that it's good for them. They just got to make it easy enough for it to happen quite,
I guess that gets us to the kind of behavioral piece. Do you have any observations from having worked in the space now for a few years about, common mistakes people make, or maybe more interestingly, the right hooks or levers or nudges that are effective in helping people make the right moves?
Yeah. Well, look, I think the thesis hasn't changed in the beginning, right? Like people are busy, right? They have a lot of stuff on their mind, and you need to make it as easy as possible for them to do it. And that's why, like, when you sign up, you start automatically saving. You don't need to give us any more information, right? You don't have to set at that point what percentage of your income you need to save. So I think it's just really making it as easy as possible. And then, you see the complexity of like if you're asking someone to switch their bill, right, which is something that's good for them, they might save like, $200, $300 pounds over a year, it's hard. When do you do it in the day, right? You're running around. So finding the right moments to communicate to people about when they can do things that are good for them in the long run, but instantly not, is really tricky. So you got to find contextual moments when, you see that bill coming out, or that bill is coming out in a few days, where, maybe it's a Sunday afternoon where you're able to message people at the right moment, right? For them to be able to take a bit of time to take an action.
I guess that's probably relevant too, from just like an advertising standpoint, like to the extent you guys actively advertise and market, have you found there to be better channels, or can you somehow deliver Plum in front of people in the right moment for them to take that action?
Yeah. No, I mean, we have found those moments, and like we've iterated. There's a combination of things that go into how and when we'll communicate. Like, one is the transaction piece, right? When are certain things coming in and out of your bank account, right? But that doesn't always correlate to what you're doing, right, in the day, right? So trying to find that combo, the right combo of like, this thing's going to happen or this thing has happened with the right time of the day is I think like one of the, it's a very powerful thing to discover, right? When and what you should say to people at what time and how to talk to them.
Well, look, this is very exciting. You guys are helping people create real value and deliver their long-term financial well-being, which is certainly a subject close to my heart. So I wish you guys all the best and look forward to watching your future progress.
Thank you.
Victor Trokoudes, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Will.
Thanks for tuning in to Rebank. If you like today's show, reach out. Follow us on Twitter at Rebank Podcast and join the conversation. For more on banking, fintech, and the future, check out our regular content at www.bankingthefuture.com.